How's it going, everybody? Welcome back again. So I've been asked a few questions in regards to how we can take a workflow and use a third party to generate the images if you don't have the GPU power in your home in order to create the images locally. And as you know, I do a lot of all of my tutorials for those who want to generate everything locally. But we're going to go ahead and create, or actually recreate, this workflow, but we're going to allow it for a third party to generate the images. And since n8n has updated past 2.0, we are going to make some updates since we can't really install ffmpeg on the Docker container anymore. And there are some services like the read write to disk and also the execute command, which may not be readily available to those as well. So we're going to go ahead and change a couple things in our workflow to fix for that as well. So go ahead and grab a cup of coffee, come on back, and we'll get started. All right, for the most part, the workflow is going to remain the same. And for those who haven't seen the previous video, I'm just going to go through a couple of the steps here to get us up to speed on what we're doing here. And this is just an image generation workflow that allows you to post to your social medias. And in this case, we have 3 different images, which then gets produced here currently locally. We have a voiceover, we have some music generation, we had some subtitles, and then we upload it to our social media platform. So we're going to go ahead and get started with this. The first thing that we're going to need, obviously, is a Google Sheet. So let's build this workflow again from scratch. So let's take a look here. So as you know, we need the schedule trigger. The schedule trigger just tells your workflow how often you want it to run. And then from there, we have a Google Sheet. So in your Google Sheets, you're going to need to add a new Google Sheet that's going to be used in order to pull the information that we're looking for. So let's take a look at what that Google Sheet looks like. As you can see, it's been used quite a bit here. But we have an ID, we have image prompt, we have some talking points, some more talking points. We have a negative prompt, we have some steps, CFG, music tags, a width, a height, a seed, a sampler, a scheduler, a status, and when it was posted. So let's take a look and see what we have. So currently, this is what the Google Sheet will look like. We'll have a link for it down in the description. From there, we're looking to grab the status column and the first status column that says processing. In this case, it'll be this column here. And then we wanted to make sure that we're grabbing only the first matching row. So we'll add an option for that, which we did here. And if we execute that step, you'll see that it'll grab row number 162, which is ID 161, with this image prompt. So if we go back here, we'll take a look and see row 162, ID 161, a gritty post-apocalyptic shooter street, burnt out cars, graffiti covered walls, etc. That's what it says here. So we know we're grabbed the right one. And as you can see, it has only grabbed one item. From there, we're going to add a UUID. This gives the unique ID so that each one of the images, the voiceover, and everything else will have the same UUID. So it'll be easier to grab later on. From there, we need to gather some information about these local images. So again, we're changing these local images into images created by a third party. Kie.ai, for instance. So let's move all this over here. First, we're going to go ahead and build out this guy. So what exactly do we need to gather? What kind of information do we need to pass on to Kie.ai, for instance? Let's take a look and see. So if we log into Kie.ai, after you log in, make sure you have some credits available. You can go here to where it says All Image API and choose the image. This is the first one that we're going to use. We're going to use Z image. So over here where it says run with API, we're going to click on that. And this is going to kind of tell us what we need and how we need to set it all up. So the first thing that we're going to need is a HTTP request. And in this HTTP request, it's going to be a post request. And if we take a look here, we'll see that this is the API that we're going to need in order to create these images through their API. So it's a post request, api.kie.ai, API v1 jobs create task. Now the best thing to do is just copy this right here. So make sure you have all your spelling right. We can just make sure that we paste that at the end here. We don't need two APIs. So just like that. For authentication, we're just going to use generic credential type. We're going to use header authentication. And we're going to use our Kie API header that we've created prior. Now, if you've never created this, what you'll want to do is go and create a new, give it a name. In this case, we named it Kie API. For the name, it's going to be authorization. And then for the value right here, see the authentication, and then it'll be bearer, and then your API key. So if you don't already have an API key, you can click on where it says API key management, and that will take you to where your API keys are. And if you don't already have any API key, you can click on generate new API key, and then you can copy that API key right here. And in this section here where it says value, we're going to make sure that we type in bearer and then paste your API key. And then we'll save that. And that'll be what you need here in order for your header authentication. Now down here, we're going to click on where it says send body. We're going to choose JSON. And then here, we're going to choose using JSON. And then as you can see in here, this is all we really need. This information right here in order to use the Z image. So we're going to actually just paste that in here, and then we're going to update that here in a minute. Now the model, as you can see, this is just giving you the information and the structure. So let's take a look down further and see what we're actually needing. So for the model is going to be Z image. So here we're going to just write Z image. We're not going to need a callback URL, so we're going to remove that. And then we'll need an input. Okay, so let's take a look at what it needs for the input down here. The input is going to need a prompt. So that's what we'll write in here. So prompt. And then we're going to give it the prompt after we hook it up here. That's going to be the image prompt right here, as you can see, but that's going to be in this gather info. So we're going to run that here in just a minute, and we'll be able to grab it from the gather info section and see what else does it need. The aspect ratio, which is also required. So we're going to make sure that we have aspect ratio listed in here also. And in the aspect ratio, this is where we're going to choose whether we want to have it in landscape or vertical. And you can choose that by either a 1:1 ratio, a 4:3, 3:4, 9:16, or 16:9. And since we're posting to social media like TikTok and Instagram, we're going to need a 9:16 ratio. So we're going to change that here. We're going to put 9:16. And that's all we need in this JSON section down here below. So this is actually ready to go until once we get the prompt, we'll put the prompt here. So let's get that wired up. We'll go into the gathered info, and we're going to remove everything that we don't need. So we don't need this. We don't need the seed, the width, the height, the steps, or the CFG, or a negative prompt. The only thing that we actually will need is the UUID, which is already in here, so we're not going to need that in the gather info section. So let's go back into this HTTP request. We're going to rename this to the image generator that we're using. So this is going to be generate Z image. And let's go back and execute the step here for the UUID. We're going to execute the gather info. And then when we come back in here, we'll see we have the prompt. So we'll grab this prompt and we'll put it right between those. And now you'll see that it's turned green down here at the bottom. Now, if we click on execute step, what we should see is a success and a code of 200. It'll also give us a task ID, which is going to be important for later on as well. So while that is going out and creating that image for us, let's go ahead and create a wait node, because we're going to need to wait until that gets executed. Now, depending on how many you're creating, you'll probably want about 3 to 5 minutes for each one. So in this case, we're going to wait for 5 minutes. And once that's done, I'll be back and we'll discuss what happened and how we got that image. So we have this wait image here. And while we're waiting, we can take a look over at Kie.ai and we can take a look at our logs. And we can actually go into our images and we can see this is the one we just created right now. And actually you can already see it's already done. So this one was created here on February 1st. And if you take a look at the result, that's the image prompt that we gave it. Not a bad looking image there. If we go back and take a look at what the actual image prompt was, a gritty post-apocalyptic shooter street, burnt out cars, graffiti covered walls, and on the battered billboard flickering last stand. So that's pretty much what it looks like. Okay, as you can see, the wait node is done and complete. So from here, we need to go ahead and actually grab the image that was just created. And in order to do that, we'll go over here to Kie.ai and we'll take a look at the get task, which is the query task get, because we want to get the image from them. And this is the API URL that we're going to be using. So let's copy that. And let's open up another HTTP request. And this is going to be a get command, a get method. And it's going to be under HTTPS api.kie.ai. And then we're going to paste in that information that we just copied. This is going to be authentication of generic credential type. This is going to be a header authentication. And we're going to use our Kie.ai that we just created a few minutes ago. From here, we're going to choose send query parameters using the fields below. What we need in here is the task ID. So this guy, right? See this guy right here, task ID. We need to grab that and put that here in the value. But make sure you spell it correctly. It's task capital I lowercase d. Sometimes that can confuse people. So now that we have the name as the task ID and we brought the value over from our wait node, we can actually go ahead and execute that step and it'll bring in all the information that we're looking for so that we can continue on. Now, what we're looking for in the next step is in this result JSON, there is a result URL, and in there is this URL here. This is actually where our file is located, and we need to go ahead and grab just that URL. So in order to do that, we're going to create a code node. And we're going to write a little bit of JavaScript here that's going to pull just that information out. So basically all this says is to take a look over here on the left, look for the result JSON field, grab where it says result URLs, and return only this information. If I click on execute, that's exactly what it did. Now we need to go ahead and download this. So we're going to go ahead and create another HTTP request. And we're going to rename this one to get generated image, or just get z image. And we're going to grab the image URL here on the left, and we're going to put it here where it says URL, and make sure that this still says method of get, because we're going to get this URL. If we click on execute, you'll see that it'll download that file for us. And if you click on view, you'll see that it's the same file that we just had a few minutes ago. Now we need to store this file. And since n8n has changed things and you can no longer really write to that container in Docker anymore, we're going to have to use our S3 storage space from minIO. So from here, we're going to say S3. we're going to make sure that we have a bucket for it, which I've already created a bucket for it. But if you haven't already created a bucket for it, you'll need to log into it. So you'll want to create a new bucket for yours. You can click on buckets here on the left and click on create bucket. Let's just create one together. This is going to be image display, tutorial, create bucket. Now I want to make sure that that bucket is accessible. So I'm going to go into the bucket and choose where it says private and make sure it says public so that I can see it. And if I go back, I can copy this because we're going to need this information. So on the S3, what we need to do here is upload a file. So click on where it says upload a file. You'll want to choose your S3 credentials at the top here. And if you don't have them, you'll want to create a new credential for it. You'll need your S3 endpoint. If I go into mine, I can show you what it looks like. So your endpoint is going to be host.docker.internal:9000. The region really doesn't matter, but you can have your region, whatever it is. You have an access key, which is the key that was generated when you go in and create your access keys, and then you'll have your secret key. And make sure this is toggled here where it says force path style is checked here. All right, now that we have that credential created, the resource is going to be file. The operation is going to be upload. Your bucket is going to be the one that you created. And then of course we need to give it a file name. So in this case, this was the Z image. So I'm just going to go ahead and name it Z image with an underscore. And then we're going to grab this UUID that it created earlier. So we're going to grab that and I'm going to put that at the end here. After I make sure that this says expression, grab the UUID and put it at the end. And then this is going to be a .png file. And if I click on execute, you should see success or true. You see them both actually, success and true. And if we go back to our console over here and we go back to our buckets, you can see that that image is now listed in here. And if we preview it again, you'll see it's that same image. So those are the steps that are needed in order to create the first image, right? And if you only want to create one, then you don't have to create any more. You don't have to create multiple ones. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and we're just going to create this one here. And then the next thing we want to do is create the voiceover. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete from this here. And we're going to connect this into the voiceover. So the voiceover that we have, it pulls information from our Google Sheet here. We have our talking points and we have more talking points. And then of course we have our voice. So in our previous episode, when we set this up, we have 5 different voices that it can automatically choose from every time it comes in. So it's not the same voice every time. Now, if you want the same voice every time, all you have to do is set it to the one voice and it'll be that same voice on every single one of your voiceovers. The input here is our voiceover from what we want it to say. And that's grabbed, of course, from our talking points and more talking points. And as you can see, this is everything that it's going to say right down here. This is also run locally. This is in your Docker desktop under Kokoro TTS. Doesn't take up very much space at all. And it's very, very minimal when it comes to your CPU usage or anything like that. So it's okay to run this one locally, no problem. So we're going to run this. That should run very quickly. That's done. Now we're going to need a place to upload this one. Since n8n changed things around, we don't really have a place to put it. So again, we're going to have to use our S3 in order to get that saved. So we're going to click on the plus sign here and we're going to choose S3 again, and we're going to upload a file. We have our S3 account that we're going to choose from the credentials. We have a file, we have upload. The bucket name, we're going to go ahead and paste that same bucket name that we had prior. And then the file name, to make things easy and consistent, this one is called Voiceover. And then we're going to grab the UUID right here, and we're going to put that at the end after we make sure that it says it's an expression. grab the UUI, put it at the end here, and this is going to be .mp3. And if we execute that, you'll see that it was success of true. And if we go back here and we hit refresh, you'll see that now that MP3 file is located here. And as you can see, the file name schema is pretty much the same. We have an image, we have a voiceover. Next is find the audio length. This is what we use in order to see how long the voiceover was, so we know how long to create the video and how long to create the background music. And since we're not using ffmpeg locally anymore, we need to have another service that we're going to be able to use in order to get that. And we can actually use our built-in NCA-Toolkit in order to get that taken care of. So in order to access that, we'll go ahead and choose an HTTP request. And we're going to just rename this one here to find audio. And this is going to be a post request. We're going to use our built-in NCA-Toolkit that we have installed in our Docker containers. So that's going to be HTTP post.docker.internal:8080. This is going to be a v1 ffmpeg compose. This is going to have some generic credential types. We have a header authentication, and then we have our NCA-Toolkit that we have that we've set up prior. Now, if you don't have this authentication, you'll need to create a new authentication. You'll have your X-API key. This is the information that you included when you created the Docker container. So that's what you'll need to put in right here. We're going to click where it says send body, JSON, using JSON, and this is going to be an expression. So let's expand this a little bit here. And what we need in here is this information. What this is an ID. So we're going to get the audio duration. The URL, of course, is going to be in the bucket that we created earlier with the voiceover and the UUID, which we grabbed from over here. And this is going to be .mp3. We don't have any filters, output, but the metadata is going to be the duration equals true. So this is basically going to give us the information. All that we're looking for in this case is the duration. So when we execute that, it's going to say the duration time is 22 seconds. And that's what we need for our next steps. So we're going to grab this. We're going to move it over here as well. So the video length, we're going to keep pretty much everything the same as before. The video length is, we need to change this a little bit because it's not the same as it was prior. So we're going to take that information and we're going to say, find the audio length where it says duration, which is down in here, and then give us that information. So let's take a look here. So we're going to delete this one and delete this one so I can rename this one properly. So if I click on this, okay, so this is the information that we have here, and we're not going to have 4, we're just going to have 1. Let's take a look at what that number is right here, and it's 24. So this rounds it up to the nearest number here. That's what this math seal is. So this would be 23. So 23 plus 1 equals 24. That's how we got the 24 on this side. So this tells us that the length of this video is going to be about 24 seconds. Okay. So this is for the music generation, and the music generation is done locally as well. And if you can't create the images, that's fine, but you should be able to create music. You should be able to use a step, which is what we use in our music generation. And it's not very intensive, and it goes through pretty quickly. So if you want to use the music background, you can use the music background. If you don't want to, you really don't have to either. But for this, we also need to go in and edit this here. So let's create this one step by step. So the first thing that we're going to need is a HTTP request. This is going to be a post. And we're going to post that to our local instance of ComfyUI, which is what we're going to be using in order to create the music. We don't need any authentication, but we are going to send some headers. Using the fields below, we do need content type. And then application, JSON, send body, And the information in here is going to be the same, so I'll make sure to include that. Using JSON here, it's going to be an expression. And we're just going to grab all the information from our left-hand side over here. We have our music tags. So we're going to grab that, put that up in here. We have how many seconds it's going to be. That's what we just created not too long ago. So that's what this length is right here. So we're going to grab that, put it here. And I don't think we need to change anything else. We already have our seed that's randomly created. Everything else looks great. Let's go ahead and execute that. That's going to go ahead and send that execution out to our ComfyUI. As you can see, that'll come through here. All right, as you can see, that took 27 seconds to create. But we also want to create a wait node just so we're 100% sure we're not overlapping and we're getting it when we need it. And in this case, it could be 1 minute. Again, adjust it to your computer and to your generation time. So it may take longer than a minute. So adjust it accordingly. We're going to execute that. While this is going through, we're going to create an HTTP request. Another one here. This one is going to be called get music info. It's going to be a get request, and we need to get the information from our ComfyUI instance. So we're going to look at the history, and we're going to need a specific prompt ID. So we'll get that prompt ID once this wait node is done, and you can see the prompt ID is right here. So we'll grab that prompt ID and put it at the end. Make sure there's no space here. If we click on execute, in the meantime, we're just going to go ahead and make sure that these are all pinned down. See if that works. So it doesn't have to continue to create them all. All right, as you can see, it gathered all the information that we're looking for here. We need another code node so that we can pull out the information that we're looking for. And basically what this says is to take a look over on this side here. And we're looking for the output so that we can see where the name of the file is. We're going to go ahead and pin this guy. We're going to pin this one. And as you can see, it gave us the information that we're looking for. We have the image URL listed here. Let's go ahead and download that. We need another HTTP request. This is also going to be a get. We're going to rename this to get generated music. This is going to be the URL that we need. So all we're going to do is grab this URL and then click on execute. And as you can see, it's listed here. Now, again, we need some place to put it. So we're going to use our S3 bucket. We're going to upload a file. You're going to choose your S3 account, file, upload, bucket name is going to be the bucket name that we have here. Remember, copying and pasting is best so you don't misspell things. File name is music underscore. We're going to grab that UUID, and then this is going to be .mp3. We're going to click on execute. Oh, it's because it's pinned. All right, let's unpin that one. Execute. Success is true. We refresh in here. You'll see that that music file is also located in here. This is me from the future saying, hey, let's also make the ability to create music offline as well, instead of trying to get everybody to use ComfyUI and then, not being able to, or whatever the case may be. Let's just say you want to create the images offline and you also want to create the background music offline as well too. Well, we can do that. And in order to do that, so we can also use Kie.ai to generate music like we do. If you watched the previous video for creating the lo-fi music, we use Kie.ai there in order to use an API through Suno in order to create the music. So we're going to create the same thing here then. So we can actually use an HTTP request here. And this is going to be a post request. And we're going to use the same API URL that we have prior. This for the post request. It's going to be the Kie.ai API v1 generate. We're going to use a generic credential type. We're going to have a header authentication, and we're going to use our Kie.ai header authentication that we've set up earlier in the video. We're going to toggle the send body. We're going to use JSON. We're also going to be using JSON here. And there's a few things that we're going to need. right, let's take a look here. So once we go ahead and log into Kie.ai, we can go over here to the API market. We can go into where it says providers and then Suno. And as you can see, we have our Suno here. We click over here where it says run with API. And this is going to give us the information that we're looking for. Now, if you just want some generic background music to put onto your video that you're using, because you're not going to want lyrics or anything like that, then you're going to want instrumental. So you're going to want to make sure that you choose the instrumental section of it. But as you can see, this is the API that we used. So this is the usage guide for generating the music, and you can go ahead and read it, basically go through it, take a look what you're going to need inside of your API calls in order to get the music that you're looking for. I already have it written down here for us. And this is all we need. We need the prompt, we need a style, we need a title, we need to know whether or not it's instrumental or not, the model that we want to use, and then we have a style weight, a weirdness constraint, and an audio weight. And you can leave those as default. Okay, so here are a few things that we're going to need. We're going to need a prompt, we're going to need a style, we're going to need a title. We're going to know whether or not it's instrumental or not as well. And so we don't have any of that information in our Google Sheet. So if that's something that you want to do, you're going to go ahead and make sure to add those rows into your Google Sheet and make sure you input that information in your Google Sheet before you run your prompts here. So in this case, since we don't have that, we're just going to go ahead and fill it in manually. Okay, so the prompt is going to be, kind of describing what you want. In this case, let's just go ahead and say we want a calm and relaxing piano track with soft melodies. And for the style, it could be something like classical. We can give it a title. It's not really going to be needed because we're just using it for background music. So we'll just name it background music. And then of course, we want this to be instrumental. So this is going to be true. And then we don't really need to do anything else at that point. So from here, we can run this. And again, as before, this time we got a code 422 and please enter a callback URL. So even though we don't really need the callback URL, it is looking though as if it is actually really needed. So let's take a look. Callback, it says it's required. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and throw that in here under this model. We're just going to say callback URL, API example. It doesn't really matter what it is, but at least it's in there. So let's try running the script again, and this time we got the 200 success with our task ID just like before. And just like before, we're going to need a wait node. We're going to give that up to 5 minutes to complete, but in this case we'll use 5 seconds because that's not going to take that much time through the magic of editing. And if you take a look at our logs under Suno, you can see that it is still running, and as you can see now, it is complete. From here, we're going to need another HTTP request. And this is going to be the GET request. We're going to use the URL record info. We're going to have, of course, our generic credential type, our header authentication. We're going to use our Kie.ai authentication that we used prior. We're going to send query parameters using the fields below. And again, we're going to try to get that task ID. And then of course, we're going to bring that value down from here. And then we're going to click on execute step. And as you can see, this brought in quite a lot of information in regards to creating that song for us. But what we're looking for here is the audio URL, which is right here. Now that we went ahead and got the song, let's go ahead and download the song. So we need another HTTP request. And in the HTTP request, we're going to have a get method. And we're going to get this audio URL right here. So this is the URL of where our file is located. So we're just going to grab that. We click on execute. We have our file. And now we need a place to put it, just like everything else. So in that case, we're going to use our S3 bucket. So we're going to do S3. We're going to do upload a file. And from here, we can name this. We want to make sure we're putting it in the right bucket, just like all the other buckets as well. Image display tutorial. And for the file name, we'll just call it music underscore, make sure this says expression. We're going to grab that UUID that's down in here, put that at the end, and we're going to name it .mp3. And then we're going to click on execute. and it sees that that was uploaded. So if you don't want to use ComfyUI to do your music background, you can also use Kie.ai, just like we've shown you here as well. Now back to the normal video. All right, now this is where the good magic happens. So if you take a look at the render video that we have in here, you can see what it does. It's an ffmpeg. It loops through the 3 images that we had. It adds the voiceover, it adds the music, it concatenates them all together. It adds any filtering that you want, like fading in, fading out, and then it combines it all into one MP4 file at the end. So we're going to do pretty much the same thing, but we're going to do that all in this HTTP request, which is going to be renamed here. All right, and in the JSON field here, so here's what we have. We have an ID, we give it an ID. We have the URL of the file of where it's located. And in this case, we have our Z image. Here's the UUID in question. We have how long the video is. We have the voiceover that we added, and we also have the music that we added. So all of those should be included in there. Now I do see one thing that happened here is the UUID changed because we pinned it and then we unpinned it, which prompted it to create a new UUID. So let me go ahead and change a couple of these file names real quick, and I'll be right back. All right, as you can see, all of them have the same UUID now. So when we go back here, this should match up. We have the Z image. We have the next file that we have is the voiceover. We have the music, and what this filter set is saying is to put them together for this long video, 23 seconds. The volume for the music is going to be quiet so that the voiceover can do its thing. And then we put it all together at the end. And if we click on execute, we cross our fingers that nothing is wrong. There we go. And it looks like it outputted the file just fine. That's going to be stored in our NCA-Toolkit. Here's the file right here. So if you wanted to view that, you can easily, it'll want you to download it, but we're not going to do that right now. So now that that's rendered, we want to create subtitles, and this one's going to be pretty easy. So from here, we're going to head and get an HTTP request here. This is going to be a post request, and we're going to go ahead and use the same NCA-Toolkit, but we're going to use video and caption in this one. For authentication, it's going to be generic. It's going to be header authentication, and we're going to use our NCA-Toolkit header information. We're going to choose send body. We're going to use JSON, and using JSON, and here's the information here. The video URL here is just going to be this file URL. We'll grab that, put that in there. And that's basically saying we're going to go through. This is the color of the font. This is the word. The word color of the font is this color here. The line color is white. Whether or not it has an outline color, whether or not it's in all capital letters, the maximum amount of words per line, it's going to be on the bottom. It's going to be centered in the font of Luckiest Guy, and the size is 96. And the style is going to be word by word. So let's go ahead and run that. Now, as you can see, it's already here in our bucket in NCA-Toolkit, but let's go ahead and download that because we're going to need it. All right, from here, we're going to do an S3, and we need to download a file. We're going to use our S3 account. This is going to be file, download. It's going to be in our NCA-Toolkit. As you can see, that's what it says right here. That's where it's located. And the file key is going to be the job ID, which is this guy right here. And then it's going to be underscore captioned.mp4. We should be able to grab that. And it's right there. Now from here, what we can do is upload this to our social medias. We have upload media from Blitato. And in the upload media section, you're going to upload. From here, we could just choose where it says use binary data. We toggle that, and then we indicate that it's data, which should be pulling from here. And then we can click on execute. Now that we have it uploaded to Blitato, the next step would be, of course, to be putting it on our Instagram. So it's Blitato again, create post. And from here, you're going to choose your Blitato account in the dropdown. If you have Blitato, and if you don't, go ahead and sign up for it. Here, we're going to choose Instagram. From here, you get to choose which account you want to post to. And then we need to put in some information of what is going to go in that post. This is the body and the text of that post. You can click and drag this image prompt over here. And this is what it will put in the description field. So when you go to see this video, you'll see, hey, it's a gritty post-apocalyptic shooter street. You can also add more information and then finally wrapping it up with more talking points. And then if you want to do anything else at all to create videos like this, click on the link in my bio. That's pretty much it. And the URL is going to be the URL here at the top. Grab that, put it in here. And then we'll click on execute step. And that has been queued in order to get posted to your social media. And then finally wrapping everything up, we need to append our Google Sheet here. So if we click on this, this will go through, it'll grab the sheet that we had at the beginning. It'll update the information, indicating that here's the seed, here's the post, and when it was posted, it'll change the status to done. Let's execute this one, and then that's it.
The gritty textures and desaturated colors convey a war-torn world, while the squad's coordinated movement adds dynamic tension ideal for FPS trailers or gameplay highlight reels. Need a war-torn backdrop for your FPS content? Click the bio link for my full VFX and composition guide, Substance After Effects.
Okay, so to wrap things up, what we've done is we've taken a previous workflow, and none of this was, the only thing that was done locally here, obviously, is the voiceover, our generated music, and then we've put everything together with the new HTTP requests for using our NCA-Toolkit to use the ffmpeg that's built in there instead of using the one that's added onto your n8n container. If you have any questions, feel free to post them down in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. But I hope that this was a better way to show you how you can use a third party like Kie.ai to go out and generate your images, and then of course grab those images and then put them into your workflows. So this was just a quick generic way in order to show you how to get that done and taken care of. Like I said, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Let me know what you're currently working on, and we'll catch you next time.